Hello, thank you for joining me. I am Mbeya and this is Recap, a look at the week's top PC gaming announcements, news and releases. A mighty collaboration has been formed between Epic Games' owned Chair Development Studio and Bad Robot, headed by notable director and producer J.J. Abrams, to bring us a game called Spyjinx, a game about thrilling espionage and is set to release sometime next year. As with Epic Games' Paragon announcement, not much is known except for the snippet of information that the game will be a mix of action strategy, dynamic world building, and RPG character development. Chair have previously made the excellent Metroidvania game Shadow Complex, and are also responsible for the mobile game Infinity Blade, and it's worth noting that there are plans to release Spyjinx on mobile devices as well as the PC. You can also head on over to www.spyjinx.com to sign up for their beta test and get involved with discussions on their message boards. After running their first beta weekend, Atari and developers Envisio Creations have delayed Roller Coaster Tycoon World from December into early 2016. The additional time will be used to tackle bugs, memory leaks and optimizations, and see improvements to coaster building and testing, and changes to the fence and grid systems. While Roller Coaster Tycoon World has the name, Elite Dangerous developers Frontier Developments are also planning on releasing their theme park management game Planet Coaster sometime next year too, so get your tickets early to avoid the queues. On the 6th of November, the zombie survival game The Dead Linger received its last update, and a week later the CEO of Sandswept Studios announced the game was to be postponed indefinitely. Even after a successful Kickstarter bringing in around $150,000, promising early sales and 3 years of development time, the project lead has claimed they've been completely unable to deliver on the gameplay they wanted. No information has been given as to whether they've sought out additional funding, such as another crowdfunding attempt, the creation of asset packs utilising their many unseen assets, or even the inclusion of collector's edition-like upgrades such as unique skins or paying for your name to be in the credits. Development certainly hasn't been smooth for the Dead Linger, with reports some staff had reduced or even no pay at times during development, and the sudden halting of development is one of the biggest risks of an early access title, one even experienced developers Double Fine have been guilty of with their game Space Base DF9. It's clear the studio couldn't continue developing the game at a loss, but what is surprising is they have already mentioned that the team has been transferred to a new multiplayer project that will be announced soon. Questions are bound to arise, such as how they are funding the title, whether they've received investment, are working on it in their free time, or are indeed using funds that could have otherwise been used for the Dead Linger. It's admirable to some degree that they haven't closed down shop and began anew, instead owning their mistakes and looking towards the future. But I worry they have set themselves up for failure, as providing anything but a polished and complete experience with their next title will be a very hard sell. Overkill's addition of microtransactions to Payday 2 didn't go down very well with a great many of its fans due to the addition of stat boosting skins that could only be obtained by paying money to unlock the safes containing the skins. After hosting an Ask Me Anything session on Reddit, the game's producer announced the stat boosts wouldn't be going anywhere, but they did add the chance that a drill to open the safes could now drop as an in-game reward after completing a heist. Many fans were still disappointed, and now adding fuel to the fire, Overkill have announced a new wave of items that feature team boosts, weapon skins that can improve the team's experience and money received in-game. These skins are at least proving to be a short-term financial success for Overkill, but it is clearly having a negative impact on the game's community, somewhat splitting it in two. On the one side you have players who will kick people from games if they don't have boosts increasing the team's overall effectiveness, and on the other, a group of players who actively kick players from the game if they have stat boosted or team boosted items. Not only that, but moderators on the Steam forums have even gone on strike over the changes. When the changes you've made to your game are putting off your biggest fans and those that have volunteered their free time to helping your game's community, it might be time to re-evaluate your plans. Probably the biggest release of the month, and one of the biggest this year, is the mighty open-world post-apocalyptic role-playing game Fallout 4 from Bethesda. As a survivor of Vault 111, you venture into the wastelands where you will fight for survival against a harsh world and those that would do you harm. Critics seem quite impressed with this release, but the players less so, with many expecting a deeper experience and an improvement on previous games in every way, and what they got not quite living up to the hype. The biggest criticism seems to be the reduced skill system, which has been streamlined into the perk system that no longer allows you to raise skills individually, and a rather pacey story that is a bit too set in telling you its story rather than letting you create your own. This is not helped by there being less focus on karma influencing your character's actions. You might not be able to be downright evil now, but you can be mildly sarcastic if you wish. I've played for around 20 hours so far and have been enjoying myself, though most of that time has been spent exploring and crafting. The weapon modification system is quite deep, allowing you to customize your weapons to your needs, and the introduction of legendary items, such as weapons with additional effects, is an exciting addition. Creating a settlement is also a fun distraction, though feels a little lacking, but it's a nice addition that I'm sure mods will flesh out over time. And it's a good incentive for scavenging everything in the world that's not nailed down to turn into raw resources, something I spend the vast majority of my playtime doing. I've still yet to experience much of the story, but the improved visuals and smoother gameplay have worked together to create a world I'm sure I'll be enjoying for many hours to come. Fallout 4 is available to buy now on Steam for £39.99 or your regional equivalent in bottle caps. Football Manager 2016, the latest in the top-selling franchise of sports management games, has released on Steam and is available for £34.99. Chances are, if you like football and have the patience for in-depth and immersive management simulations, you've already given this series a try and will know if it's your thing or not. I personally wish it was anything but football. It looks fascinating, the attention to detail, the statistics, the management and tactics on offer. If only it was managing a group of mercenaries, evil henchmen or overly aggressive orcs instead. I do like how the cover image features a man in a suit and tie, but I think that's all the enjoyment I'll receive from this particular title. The Wonderfully Weird Impossible Creatures has launched on Steam approximately 13 years after its initial release. This creative real-time strategy game was the work of Relic, best known for their stellar Homeworld, and who went on to create the amazing Dawn of War series and Company of Heroes games. Impossible Creatures takes place in the 1930s, where it's your job to stop an evil villain hell-bent on the destruction of the world by creating an army of genetically engineered monsters, splicing together varying animals depending on your needs. It was certainly an interesting game that I remember enjoying when it launched, but I have no idea how it's aged, though at the very least, this re-release has been remastered by Nordic Games to work on modern systems. Featuring a single-player campaign over 15 missions and re-implemented multiplayer, you can pick the game up now on Steam for almost half price at £5.39, or the usual price of £8.99 from the 18th of November. Image Space Incorporated have released their hardcore racing simulation game rFactor 2 on Steam, and the game certainly seems to be ticking the simulation boxes, with an advanced physics engine, tyre modelling, road modelling with varying grip states, day-night transitions, weather effects, varying AI, and a whole lot more. rFactor 2 is also moddable and has Steam Workshop integration, providing easy access to new cars and tracks. Up until the 19th of November, you can buy the game with a pretty large 40% saving, costing you £14.39. After that date, it will be listed at £23.99. An important note, however, is it seems multiplayer is restricted to requiring a subscription charged at £8.99 a month, or you can buy the game with a lifetime subscription for £37.79 that will increase to £62.99 on the 19th of November. The developers do say rFactor 2 is an evolving product and will be regularly updated for many years, but the inclusion of a monthly subscription is sure to put off all but the most hardcore fans. The conclusion to the StarCraft II trilogy is now complete with the launch of StarCraft II Legacy of the Void, available on Battle.net now for £29.99. Legacy of the Void focuses on the Protoss' attempt to reclaim their homeworld, and as well as a fully featured single-player campaign, now includes a cooperative mode for you and a friend to enjoy. Multiplayer also gets some attention with 2 new units for each race, and new abilities for some existing units as well. If you were waiting for the story to complete before diving in, you can now also buy the StarCraft II collection for £49.99 that's also available on Battle.net. That release doesn't herald the end of StarCraft II just yet, however, with Blizzard planning on releasing 3 mission packs, with the first titled Nova Covert Ops launching in the springtime next year. Steam's attempt at taking over your living room is now in full swing with their first hardware releases. The Steam machines themselves come in a variety of models and configurations from multiple providers, and will primarily run on the new Linux-based Steam operating system. Prices start from around £500 with some pretty interesting console-like designs and sizes, certainly something to consider if you're looking for a new rig and space is limited. If you are already happy with your current setup or would simply prefer a traditional desktop, you can still stream your Steam games to any compatible TV in the house with the new Steam Link box priced at £39.99. This little box will stream content from your PC at 1920 by 1080 resolution at 60 frames per second and features 3 USB ports allowing you to plug in your keyboard, mouse and controller as you wish. This will of course utilise your home network, and a wired network is recommended for best performance. And while the visuals aren't quite as crisp as a direct feed, users don't seem to be experiencing input lag, meaning it could very well be an affordable and solid solution to spread gaming through your house. The final hardware push means users can now get their hands on the Steam controller, which forgoes some of the usual input methods and instead offers up dual trackpads featuring haptic feedback. While the Steam controller is highly configurable, users seem largely unimpressed with the build quality that they say feels a bit cheap, especially when compared with the Xbox or PS4 controllers. Reviews suggest that the controller is not a replacement for either the mouse and keyboard nor traditional dual analog controllers, but might very well be of use to those that wish to play games requiring more direct and precise mouse controls from their couch, without the fuss of trying to get comfortable with a mouse and keyboard on your lap. While I think people wanted it to be the perfect PC controller, I do feel it fills holes in the market and will appeal to a select few users, and I can't be too critical with it, as truth be told, I have a very dark secret. I used to game with a trackball. I know what you're thinking, I'm some sort of abomination, and how could I have possibly attempted such a thing? But at the time I was playing a lot of Tribes 2 and Battlefield 1942 and space was very limited, so I thought I'd give it a go. And frankly the results were amazing. I could fly circles around anyone, pulling off stunts even flight stick users would be envious of. Sadly I had to return to the humble mouse when it broke after a few years of constant use, and they no longer made the model I was comfortable with. But the reason I bring this up is that I feel some people will likely get used to the new Steam controller very quickly, and it could very well be that in the future a game will release that could utilise the inputs in a very clever way, either resulting in a superior control scheme or an immersive experience. An amazing addition is that due to the customization on offer, the Steam controller is already helping disabled users play some games that were perhaps a little too fiddly before. This week, apart from getting lost in the wasteland and collecting the world's largest supply of cups, clipboards and semi-automatic weaponry, I decided to try out Chaos Reborn, the turn-based strategy game from the designer of the original XCOM. You are a mighty wizard who opposes enemy wizards as you explore the realm of chaos, utilising spells and summons that are granted to you based on your equipment, anything from a pack of lowly rats to hulking giants. One part chess with an emphasis on strategic placement, movement and forward thinking, and the other part poker with its reliance on the luck of the draw, odds and risk management, and even some bluffing to boot. I am a terrible chess and poker player, but to my amazement, I'm great at Chaos Reborn. Really? Absolutely untouchable. Quite possibly the greatest wizard there ever was. Alright, I'm not. As expected, I'm useless and was indeed bluffing, but I need the practice. You see, spells and summons have a chance to fail, sometimes a pretty substantial one, but the wizards have a trick up their sleeve. They can call in an illusion. These illusions are as powerful as the creature summons they're based on, but can't fail to be brought into play. Downside is, if an enemy wizard suspects the creature isn't real, they can simply disbelieve its existence, causing it to fade into the nether. It's a risky move, however, as if they're wrong, they cannot attempt to summon a creature of their own or use a spell for that turn. Like a lot about Chaos Reborn, it's simplistic mechanics like these that meld together to form something deep, strategic, and incredibly satisfying. While spells and abilities are granted via cards, you don't create a deck like in a CCG. Instead, you are given a random assortment based on your equipment, and it's up to you to use them as best you can. As you can imagine, RNG and odds play a huge role in the game. The lowliest creature can kill your wizard if they're lucky enough, or your most powerful Hydra can miss all of its attacks turn after turn, and this can certainly be a turn-off, as anyone who's missed a point-blank shotgun blast in XCOM will tell you. I haven't played a huge amount, and most of what I have played was the tutorials, which took me around 5 hours to finish. That may seem like a slog, but I very much feel I need to finish a tutorial before I move on to the meat of the game, and sneakily, Chaos Reborn have thrown in a series of tough challenges, such as killing an enemy wizard with a summoned sword, or dispatching them with a resurrected creature, and only 1% of its user base have actually completed it. When 99% of your players haven't finished your tutorial, you're either doing something very wrong or very right, and I'm happy to say I feel it's the latter. I haven't given multiplayer a try for fear of showing my incredible ineptitude to other humans, but I briefly tried the single player and had a great deal of fun despite not being very good at it. It appears the single player takes place on user-created realms, so story or themes could turn out to be very hit or miss, but the core gameplay doesn't change and appears to be highly refined. It's not a great deal of information to learn, and there are plenty of tooltips to provide any details you may have forgotten while you play, but the strategy and randomness work together so closely that the overall experience is a joy to play and has my recommendation if you're a fan of turn-based tactical games. Now I just need to get better at it, or at the very least, practice convincing people that I'm good at the game. And that just about sums up this episode of Recap. Thank you very much for your time. Farewell.